Hello, Somerset County. Welcome to this edition of the Scoop Podcast. My name is Chris Edwards. I'm the president of the Somerset County Business Partnership. Thank you for joining us today. Before we get to our guest speaker and company, I want to give a quick shout out for our Sip and See campaign that just launched here in 2026. So a lot of you are familiar with our Sip and See Somerset, which is a great way to put together a trail of restaurants and breweries and different locations in Somerset County. But for our special 250th edition, we are doing commemorative mugs here. So you'll see a mug at the table. This is the prize for Sip and See Somerset this year. So if you want looking for more information about Sip and See Somerset, visit somersetnj.org to learn more and see the participants. I am joined today for a special spotlight on business with the founder and CEO of Alpine Business Systems, Mr. Bill Blum. Bill, everyone here knows you because you've been very active in the partnership over the years, but welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, and thanks for the opportunity. It's a fabulous organization I've been a member of, honored to be on the board of directors years ago and supporting the business partnership, the things you do for the community, the business in the community, as well as all of your legislative agendas and whatever. It's great.
And it's when we talked about having you on, I thought, I was like, you've been so active with us over the years. You've given back so many different ways in terms of presentations. I always tell people this story. My first event here at the partnership as a new employee in 2013 was the top 10 apps you need on your phone presented by Bill Blum. And that's how far we've come from the AI seminars you now do for us here at the partnership. And most events you do for us, if not all, you hardly ever talk about Alpine and the business that you help build. And I thought that would be a great opportunity today to do a little spotlight on the organization and some of the things you and your team are working on. So why don't you give our audience a little bit of background on yourself and how Alpine became a business?
Thank you. I'm a longtime resident of Somerset County. I grew up in central New Jersey. I come from a long line of serial entrepreneurs. My grandfather had every company under the sun, from a refrigeration company, a car dealership. He ended his career running a bar upstate New York. He also had a casket company. I mean, he was, and he and my father and my uncle, his two sons, were entrepreneurs. So I had it in my blood, basically. But I always wanted to be a musician, so I ended up going to Manhattan School of Music, getting a bachelor's and master's, and spending about 25 years in the music industry playing drums on recordings and live events and working with a lot of different bands. But the world changed with technology in the 80s, and I realized that and saw that my skill sets and my talent were not those of an artist, a singer, So I saw, how difficult it was for artists and creative people. I kind of prayed to find out what I should do next. So I asked God for guidance, and after probably many months, I picked up a computer one day, and I didn't sleep for 3 days. I read the little basic book, and it said, print hello, and hello comes out of the printer, and I was like, wow.
What was your first computer? Do you remember?
Sure. It was a compact luggable. It looked like a Singer sewing machine. Green screen. Yeah. You could get green or amber. That was way back when in the 80s. So then I took a job as part-time as a programmer while I was still playing music 5, 6, 7 days a week and also working as a part-time programmer. And I fell in love with what technology can do to improve the quality of people's lives. So I started my own software company for car dealers and leasing companies, where we created the software that you go in and it calculates all of the warranties and the finance payments and all that, gives them business information on inventory and profitability. And I was able then to sell it to about 200 car dealers up and down the East Coast. And the reason that it really lit me up again, which is Alpine's purpose, which is to improve the quality of life for our clients, fellow teammates, and our communities.
Right.
And I saw that by creating this software, instead of having to write everything down, they could enter the information once and print it out on all of the massive number of forms. As everybody knows, when you lease or buy a car, you're signing your name a bunch of times, the same information. And it cut down the amount of time for the people in the office. I remember the lady right now at Scott Chevrolet out in Pennsylvania when we went in and set her up. And she's like, wow. So in other words, I'm going to be able to close out a deal and do all that stuff in about 15 or 20 minutes instead of an hour.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's the kind of stuff that kind of lit me up about technology, what it can do for people to improve the quality of their life. And I started the company back in 1988, and I have built it up. We've got about 30 people now. We're a Microsoft certified partner, and we provide a range of services to small and medium businesses to comprehensively manage their technology.
In the beginning stages of the companies, it's funny because I can remember the chamber directory from like 15 years ago that always used to have computer repair man, right? And was that part of the business? Was that kind of like, was it old school, or was that always separate, where you literally came in and it was like an on-site doctor's visit to repair a computer? Was that a lot of the work in the early days of the company?
You hit the nail on the head. Back in the 80s and even into the 90s, it was a break-fix business.
Right.
Many people didn't even have internet access back then, and then internet access became a requirement along with email and all the other things. And technology then went from like a nice tool to have, to a requirement of any business around the mid-'90s, late '90s. And because of that, I started listening to my clients, and 3 of them came to me one month, and they all said the same thing. Bill, sometimes, we spend this much money every month, and this breaks, and you have to fix that and whatever. Can't you tell us what this is going to cost?
Right.
And I started to do managed services, as they call it now. It wasn't even a term back then, where there's a fixed price to manage the technology comprehensively. And it aligned our goals with the goals of the client. So the client wants everything to work all the time, right? And if we allow them to do that, if we did all the things it takes to do that, which is a very proactive approach rather than a reactive approach, our ideas and our alignment with them in terms of our goal is completely aligned with them. Everything works all the time. And now that's sort of the way the industry is structured now.
And yeah, I feel like as these MSPs, these service providers have popped up, your knowledge base and these verticals that you have to operate in keep growing and growing. What are some verticals, I guess, within Alpine that maybe someone out there who's not familiar with what IT companies do, what are some things that people might not be thinking of that you handle for your clients?
Well, when we talk about technology comprehensively, whether you have a 5-person organization or a 5,000-person organization, we've identified about 65 best practices that cuts across every industry, every SIC code, every whether it's manufacturing, legal, accounting, finance, nonprofit. There's certain baselines that cover everything based on the National Institute of Standards and Technology's framework around how to secure the environment and also how to make it high performing. So we touch everything from not only obviously their infrastructure, their computers, their servers, their cloud applications, and their firewalls, but also all of the other things that are kind of behind the scenes. There's a lot of plumbing that has to take place, and there's a lot of I's need to be dotted and T's need to be crossed. And we've identified, as I said, about 65 of those main items, and we work with our clients to get them green on every single one, because by doing so, they'll have a high-performing, secure environment.
Yeah. And do you want to talk about, you took those 65, and I think you've narrowed it down into a couple of key verticals. Do you want to talk a little bit about those?
Absolutely. So up here on the screen, if you can see the screen, let me enlarge this a little bit. Okay, so any infrastructure technology-wise for small, medium, or even enterprises is now composed of 3 very distinct areas. We start, obviously, with the protection side. So when we get a new client, we think immediately security, reliability, and performance in that order. We don't really care if it's slow and unreliable, but it better be secure.
Right.
And so the first thing we do is we drop down our peak protection stack, which is a layered set of tools that protect against hackers and exfiltration of data and all of that. It takes a lot of those tools to really make the system as secure as possible. Just like if you have a house, you got a lock on the door. If you really want to be secure, you have some cameras, you got lighting, all those other things. So you have all of that in our peak protection stack. And the good thing about it is, a lot of the stack has become consolidated with certain vendors. We work with a few vendors. In the past, we had 25, 30 vendors. Now that's skinny down to about 8 or 10. And the big guys like Microsoft have taken up a very big role in providing those services. So peak protection is first. Peak performance is then second and third. So in other words, once it's secure, we look at the reliability of the infrastructure. We don't even care if it's slow at this point. We want to make sure that it's up all the time. And then the last leg of that is on the performance side is the performance. It's got to be as fast as possible, which means an investment, and we work with our clients on those budgets. But now with the AI that has dropped down on the world, which is accessible to everybody, you can now add intelligence to that. And it's the first solution that we're bringing to customers whereby peak protection, peak performance hits the bottom line. We all know that. If you got a small and medium business, you know that you're paying for all of these tools, these infrastructures, computers, firewalls, all that stuff, cloud applications, and it hits the bottom line. It doesn't improve revenue. You can argue that it does if your people have the tools to be able to sell and increase revenue. They're going to be better at it than somebody who doesn't have the tools.
Right.
But if you add that layer of AI, which is available to everybody right now, what we've seen, certainly in our company and in the clients that we're working with, it creates efficiencies and productivity gains that heretofore were just unheard of.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that you get rid of people. In fact, if you look at technology, as technology progressed, more people are employed than there were before. Now, the jobs are going to change. The task is going to change. But the purpose of the job stays the same. And the fact that you still need a human, as they say in AI, in the loop on everything. This is not necessarily an activity where you're going to reduce headcount. Yes, you can reduce headcount in certain areas, and you can design headcount in other areas. But the net for most of the small and medium businesses that we work with is really an even keel. And then as you grow, you then begin to add people incrementally. You're just taking the tasks that they do that are repetitive that a computer can do,
Right.
and you're giving it to them. It's the same thing we've always done with technology.
Well, I think and I'm kind of like putting myself in your shoes, but as you kind of said it before, that I always feel like people don't appreciate people in your world until something breaks, something doesn't go right. They have a deadline and they're having a hard time connecting to the internet to give you a basic problem. But I think the one thing with AI is it's not about being more efficient as a staff. It's really about expanding productivity, right? So it's not about these tools in the long run save me money. Now you could say, okay, you're going to grow your business through kind of smart usages of AI. And I think for those of you who are listening, obviously you probably know the partnership well. We've been able, through your partnership and what we do with Copilot, all those meetings for brainstorming, coming up with logos for events or coming up with, marketing emails and things like that, that amount of time has been really, really reduced. And to your point, it's not about, okay, well, we don't need a marketing person on staff. It's like now that marketing person can get to things that we could just never get to, previously. And that opens up, so much for a business. And we're just on the precipice of figuring out what that is. I feel like most businesses are like, they can get it's like, okay, I can. It feels tangible. It's like, how do we take advantage of it? And I feel like that's where you can come into play as well.
Absolutely. That's where we provide a lot of value to our clients in helping them to understand the tools that are available to them now. Anybody who's on a Microsoft platform already has Copilot, which is based off of ChatGPT, and now it's based off of Claude as well. But when you think about AI and what it does for people, you have to think about it in kind of two ways. One is it's an augmentation to what the human actually does. So it adds, as you said, the ability to take notes, to do the things that a computer can do that takes it off of a human's plate. So it augments our abilities in a sense, and we're partnered with it. And again, always a human in the loop. You have to check it and what all. My employees gave me a T-shirt that says, "Be calm and trust the AI." Just kidding. Always double check.
Yes. Yep.
So as an augmentation to the human abilities, it really supercharges what you can do and gets it done faster. It also adds, as you said, ideation and gives you ideas and generates things that you maybe not have even thought of. And in terms of research, it's one of the most incredible tools. I mean, you just put in, Microsoft Researcher and Copilot, and it gives you pages and pages. That's very, very accurate. The hallucinations over the past 6 months have gone down incredibly. So that's an augmentation of the abilities, but it also can then take over autonomously certain jobs and functions and tasks, and that's the next level up.
Right.
And so when you think about this, and when a company thinks about how they should approach AI, they should think of it in two ways. It's a top-down and a bottom-up approach. This is nothing like dropping down an ERP system or a CRM system or in a financial accounting system where you come in, you drop this down, you train people, you go away, everything works. No, this is a completely new technology. As Mustafa Suleiman, who runs AI for Microsoft, said, it's a new digital species. And everybody has to understand how to deal with this new digital species, which is acceptable to all of us.
Right.
I mean, I talk to my AI, my Copilot, every day in conversation mode, just like I'm talking to a person. Now, it's not a person, but it does have superhuman intelligence and has access to things that heretofore would have taken us hours. So everybody's got to use it, including the C-suite. And the problem that in most organizations, and MIT has proven this in some of the studies they've done, the C-suite has to be engaged in it. It's not like, I used to ask people, CEOs, you do email? Oh, yeah, I do email. Oh, how do you do email? What do you use? Well, my secretary prints it out, I write down on it, and I send it back to her. Yep. And there we go. That's not email, okay? Yeah. That's not doing email. You need to understand how to use this tool, how to understand how to work with this new digital species. Because just like I tell everybody, you're never going to learn how to drive a car by reading a book or going to a class. You got to get behind the wheel. If you're going to learn how to use your smartphone, you have to use your smartphone. You're not going to go to a seminar and learn how to use it and everything's fine, or you're going to delegate it to somebody else. So the C-suite has got to be involved. But then the C-suite has to give the employees the tools, number one. They have to put guardrails around those tools. And then they have to give them the education and the training to help them to kind of understand how to work with this. But it's accessible to everybody, I mean, everywhere at this point. And it is the most incredible technology. And this year, we're going to see some massive, massive changes. What those are going to be? Well, some of the smartest people kind of look over the horizon and see. I heard a podcast the other day, in 5 years, there's going to be more highly precise robotic surgeons than there are surgeons today because the robots they're making, we already see that in medical technology, the ability in education to educate more people and give them tutors that are completely designed to work with that individual and that individual's special needs and whatever and strengths and all of that. We just don't have enough of the people around the world to do that. So this is going to really change society in a lot of ways and bring everybody up to a certain level.
No, it's overwhelming from a I think when you take unlike other things, when you take a 10,000-foot view, it almost looks, things generally sometimes look more simple. But with AI, sometimes I think the further out I look, the more overwhelming it becomes. You know, I went to a chamber conference national a couple of years ago, and they were talking about in the year 2030 that networking events would be done through augmented reality and AI, where you would put on, you know, Meta glasses or whatever company is doing that, and you would never have to leave your home, your office. You would just enter a virtual reality. And I do think, you know, for everything like that, there's also going to be pushback on those types of things. But, you know, I think honestly, for anyone who wants to know more about this, we've already had 4 AI boot camps. There's going to be more AI boot camps in 2026. Obviously we'll get, you know, how you can contact Alpine here in a second. But one, just on the other side of it, and I don't want to go too deep into it, but, and maybe it's not even AI, but what the transformation your industry's gone through is wild. What keeps you, as someone who's been in this for a long time, what keeps you up at night as far as like, okay, I'm nervous about where things are going?
That's a great question. I'm going to quote Ethan Mollick, who is a Wharton School professor that I follow. He wrote a book called Co-Intelligence, great book. He's on a sabbatical now and making the rounds with the book. He worked on a lot of AI projects. And as he said, and many of the other deep thinkers like Ray Kurzweil and Jensen Huang and Mustafa Suleyman, Henry Kissinger wrote a couple books with Eric Schmidt from Google. So I read all those books. I've read them for years. I've been interested in futurism. Ethan Mollick said that if you haven't spent 3 sleepless nights, you really don't understand AI, okay? So if you read those books and you understand the power of this technology, which is the next sort of nuclear race, right, okay, in a sense, arms race, which we see all the time, those are the kind of things that kind of keep me up at night or worry me, because given this powerful technology in the hands of people who don't share our values and what we believe in here in the United States, democracy, freedom, justice for all of those wonderful values that we've brought to this planet over the past 200 years, there's people who don't believe that out there. And, you know, we're on the front lines with them. Yep. Some of our people are on the front lines right now. They get a hold of this stuff and they can weaponize it against us. And that's, or even, capitalism, the profit motive of certain people, and that puts aside their morals and their ethics. That scares me. Yeah. That's the stuff that scares me. Yeah.
Well, it's a technology where even if it's not an adversary, like a historical adversary, whether that be a country or a group, now it's just, it could be really, really smart people in any basement in the world now has a power, an untapped power too, right?
Oh, yeah. So. Well, there's more $10 billion startups right now with fewer than 5 people that have reached $10 billion valuations within less than a year or two than we've ever seen. I mean, people have... The predictions are off the rails. It's mind-boggling, some of the predictions.
It's funny you say that. I had a meeting yesterday with a mayor in Somerset County, and we were talking about, the downtown and downtown storefronts and how hard it is to find businesses to occupy those storefronts. And it's not only just society has adapted to an Amazon world. It's just that 50 years ago, that's where entrepreneurs went. They had a storefront in a downtown and started their business there. That's not it's a path, but there's many other paths now to be an entrepreneurial business that don't involve brick and mortar anymore.
Some people predicted that there will be in the next year or so the first $1 billion company with one person who's at the helm. Now, to your point, you said about the virtual meetings and everything. I still believe, we can't lose our humanity, and this kind of like sharing the same space and time is entirely different. There's things that go on that we don't understand in the universe. We don't understand 90% of the mass of the universe to begin with, but things happen when in this sort of personal space, which is a great thing that the Somerset County Business Partnership does. They bring people together in the same space and time.
Well, Bill, you were a part of those discussions. I mean, I remember during the pandemic, we had a lot of discussions about when we were doing virtual meetings almost every day of, will we ever go back in person? And there was a lot of people out there that just said, nope, no more in office, no more in person. Everything will be done through Zoom. And we were very adamant that no, people are going to have an even more, a bigger desire after the pandemic. And I think the same thing with this is that there will be a natural pushback where people will be like, no, I need these relationships.
Wouldn't even say it's a pushback. I would say it's like we don't want to lose that.
Right,
this is additive in a sense. So I found out two things recently. Today, I was watching on CNBC today, January 13th, 2026.
Good timestamp, so you're a good podcaster.
That the travel industry, I mean, travel is up. Business travel.
Yep.
So 4 years ago, we would say that, oh, this is going to be a problem. Well, guess what? 5 years later, travel is up. Real estate in New York City has gone through the roof. Commercial. I was talking to a commercial real estate a person the other day, and in the city, and they said, we're having a hard time finding, appropriate rental space for a lot of our clients because a lot of the big companies have come back and demanded that people share the same space and time.
Yep.
So it's very interesting how this is going to play out.
Yeah, no, and it's, well, we appreciate that you're a part of the journey for us as our MSP. And I want to thank you for joining the podcast. Before I get you out, we always ask our guests a couple of their favorites. You are very local to this area, know this area very well. I'm sure you have multiple for both of these, but can you name a few of your favorite places when you go out to eat? Oh, wow. I think you named the entire membership of the partnership.
Well, you asked me the question, what's my favorite place to eat in Somerset County? Well, it depends on the day and what I feel like eating.
Yep. That's the opposite of our family. Our kids want to go to the same three places every time, and 3 might be a lot.
Well, I would definitely recommend all of these places here, and they are members of the business partnership.
Yep.
Some of them are really good friends of mine, like Rick over at Verve and whatever, but I've been to all these places, and I frequent them rather regularly every single week. So I like all of these places here. And one of my favorites, obviously, is Wendy's, because they're a client of mine, the Rawson Group.
Yep.
But all of them work really hard to put really good food on the table.
Yep.
So.
That's sometimes people think of Wendy's as this big multinational company. They are very local and have a very local presence here in the partnership. And obviously, you know them well. And how about recreation? Do you have favorite activities?
Same thing. We, depending on what I feel like doing, what my family feels like doing, and friends. Yeah, the Patriots obviously are one of the greatest organizations in Somerset County, one of the jewels of Somerset County. The theater, obviously, Iron Peak, that recreation place is great. In the Shannock Valley, I'm trying to become a golfer.
You and me both.
And all the other golf clubs there. The Prudential Center in Newark, incredible venue. And obviously, I have to check out Yoga 6, too. I haven't checked them out yet.
Yeah,
but,
they were doing classes. Now their space is open here right down the street, but they were doing classes here in the hub for a while. Before we wrap up, how, if our audience wants to connect with you and with Alpine, how would they go about doing that?
Very simply, alpinebiz.com, alpinebiz.com. You can reach out to us on our website. You can also reach out to me personally at Blum, that's BBLUM, at alpinebiz.com as well.
Awesome. Well, Bill, thank you so much for joining us. Somerset County, thank you so much for joining this edition to the Scoop podcast. And until we upload again. Awesome.